What is up, guys? Pinky49 here. We are back on MTG Arena today, but we're more importantly back on YouTube, and wow, it feels great to be back. The response of the last video was incredible, guys. I felt the love. Thank you all for expressing your welcome backs and for all the positive comments that you made and all the great creative questions that you left. We had a lot of great creative questions of the week. I'm getting excited for this series. You guys are just amazing. I don't know what else to say besides that. You guys are amazing, a great community. So I want to thank you for the response in the first video, and like I said, I'm really excited to get this series underway. Just briefly, we're playing Magic the Gathering Arena again in this video, and I'm playing an angel deck, which basically means mostly angels, and don't worry about that. It's just eye candy in the background. Today we're going to dive into this series and answer our first question of this series, and I had a lot to choose from. You guys did some great questions. Be sure to leave a question for next week. If I didn't choose your question and you really want it answered, I actually had a hard time picking, so put another question in the comment section of this video for next week so we can keep the ball rolling. But the question I chose for this week came from Jose Morales, and he says, "Gonna be honest, low-key upset is not Minecraft. Just because I saw how you worked yourself off on that map, and I kind of want to see you show it off now that Minecraft is becoming a little popular again, kind of. And I guess Desolation was just a way for all of us to connect through that game, and I don't know why, but I've played Apex, Blackout, Fortnite, and still nothing gives me the joy and fun I had when playing Desolation. But that's not what really matters. I'm glad you're back, man, and I'm willing to continue to support you no matter what you do. And the creative question of the week is, what goal do you think humanity is not focused enough on achieving?" Wow, thank you so much for those kind words and that great question, Jose. I really appreciate it. The feeling is mutual. I'm kind of sad that Desolation is not around anymore, but at the same time, we're changing, we're growing, we're moving on, and I think that's equally or more important. Desolation is the most fun I've ever had in a video game personally, and you're right, it wasn't because of the blocks on the screen. It was because of the interactions that we had, all the PvP games we had, all the building ideas, the creative ideas that were floating around, and it was an amazing experience. And the reason why I don't want to bring it back is because I don't think we can ever replicate that again. It was a moment in time. Those who jumped on board, those who were a part of it, understand that. I think, just like you were saying, Jose, you understood that because it's something that can never be recreated. And what can you do? Let's move on. Let's dive into these creative questions of the week and see where this takes us. You never know where this little rabbit hole will go. Okay, so to answer your question, what a great question. What was the exact word? What goal do you think humanity is not focused enough on achieving? Wow. I can answer this wholeheartedly. I think that we as humans are not focused enough on going inward. And I'll explain what that means in the next 15 minutes. Something that I've learned from my experience, right? I used to be sort of an unconscious person. I ate horrible foods. I used drugs and alcohol. I didn't have a focus or a plan, right? I was just floating through life, as I think personally 95, maybe higher % of people on this planet are doing. A lot of them will just get a job just because they need money, just because they need a house and food and clothes, and they'll get a job that they don't like doing, that actually is killing them slowly. It's destroying their soul, and it's just, we're not in alignment as a species with who we truly are, and that's a result of not going inward. So I was this guy who was, unfocused, unconscious, but I had a kind of an awakening. And I realized that the solution to all of humanity's problems, period, the solution to all of our problems is going inward, exploring the self. Okay? So as a society, we're very unconscious. We do a lot of things to kind of hide from ourselves, to kind of cover up, to avoid going into the self. Drugs is one. A lot of people will take drugs, whether that's illegal drugs or legal drugs prescribed to you by your doctor. We'll use these drugs to kind of mask our emotions, mask our feelings, mask our past traumas, and we'll use these drugs to kind of cover up so we don't have to look at ourselves. Alcohol is the same thing. Well, a lot of people will drink alcohol until they're numb. and that's an avoidance technique to try to cover up. Same thing goes for retail therapy, right? A lot of us will just spend a lot of money on stuff we don't need or want, but it makes us feel good, right, in the moment. You buy a $200 pair of jeans or whatever it is that makes you feel happy, and you feel happy, and all your hurt is kind of forgotten for that moment, right? Until you got to buy the next thing, right? A lot of us will travel, and I think this is a big one. Once you get more money, once you become an adult and you start getting more money, I see this trend with a lot of people. A lot of people will spend their life traveling, and while traveling is great, it opens you up to a lot of things. I think a large part of it is avoidance, right? You hate your life. You hate not hate, maybe the hate's a strong word, but you're not happy with the life that you've created for yourself at home. So a lot of people will go to different countries to just kind of forget their life, right? And that's a form of avoidance. They'll just go to Bali or whatever and just bliss out for 2 weeks, but then they come back home and it's even worse. Right? Those 2 weeks of freedom and happiness just made you realize how much you hate your life even more. So a lot of people will use travel, and they'll go to different countries to kind of avoid looking at themselves. Video games is one. I think this was something that many of you might relate to better, but video games is definitely in the same vein as drugs, alcohol, retail therapy, right? We don't want to get in touch with our inner selves, so we'll just play video games, and it's a way to kill time rather than to go inwards, right? Same thing with TV and movies. We'll just sit on the couch, just vegging out, not using our brains, not feeling our emotions. It's a distraction, right? Which sports, another distraction. A lot of us will play in sports or watch sports as a distraction from going inwards. Gambling is another one, right? People need that happiness spike, right? So when they win at gambling, they feel good, right? But of course, that's a double-edged sword, because when you lose, you feel horrible. So as human beings, we're always looking for something that's going to take us out of who we are, right? Food is another one. A lot of people will eat food to find happiness. Because they can't find happiness in their daily life, so the only thing that they can relate to that brings them happiness is eating food, and they'll go overboard, and that's why we have such an obesity problem in this country. So all of these things are symptoms of not going inward, not exploring the self. Now, what do I mean by going inward, exploring the self? How can I put this in words that make sense to you? Okay, well, when I had my awakening, I understood suddenly that there's two parts of all humans. I shouldn't say all, because some of us are, okay, anyway, there's two parts to humans. There's our ego self, and then there's our soul. Now, the ego self is everything that your brain has stored up. All the information your brain has stored up. All your mannerisms, your way of speaking, your way of thinking. This is your ego self. And, depending what society you're grown up in and what surrounding people in your life you had when you were growing up, that'll help determine your ego self. And that's basically, all the thoughts in your head, 95% of the thoughts in your head are ego thoughts. What should I do right now? Should I go outside? Should I go play a video game? What should I eat for dinner? These are all ego thoughts. Oh, I got to get more money. Oh, I got to go to my work. These are all ego thoughts. And this is the majority of our reality is our ego, because in this society we're taught that the ego is all there is, and this is intentional, guys. This is intentional. We're taught that the ego is all there is, but there's a different aspect to you, and it is your soul. It is your inner self. Some people call it their higher self, and this is the part of you that is really feeling emotions, right? Our emotions are the way that our inner or higher self speaks to us, and this inner self or higher self is also speaking to us through intuition and our psychic ability, which we all have, but which has been conditioned out of us since the moment you turned maybe 1 or 2. The moment you started speaking, adults started to tell you that your intuition is not valid. And so it's grown out of us. But this is the most important part of being human. It's what's guiding us towards happiness. But we are so engulfed in our ego minds that we can't hear it. A lot of you are saying, oh, I'm not psychic. Oh, I don't have intuition. You're wrong. You do. It's just you can't hear it because your ego mind has taken over. And so the only way to bypass the ego mind and experience the truer, higher self is to go inwards, to really become more acquainted with your soul. Okay, am I losing you guys yet? Are you still with me? As always, if you have any questions about this, and this is the whole point of this, put the comments in the comment section if you want to spark a debate, if you want me to clarify anything. But let's have a discussion about this. So, where was I? Why did I say that? I lost my train of thought. Okay. Anyway, so going inward is the key to healing all these things, right? And a big part of this is shadow work. And this is something that I've been working on for the past 4 years or so, maybe longer, is doing the shadow work. And what I mean by shadow work is that we all have a dark side to us. We all have a negative side. We all have a side that's full of trauma, is full of heartache, is full of pain, is full of sorrow. And like I said, many of us are trying to hide that side through drugs, alcohol, retail therapy, traveling, video games, movies, TV, sports, gambling, food. We're trying to hide that self because it's uncomfortable to look at. We don't really want to see our shadow side because it's scary, it's painful, right? We don't want to admit that we have problems, that we have faults that need to be healed. Because it's difficult, it's painful. Like, what happens when someone criticizes you for one of your faults? You get mad, you get angry, right? You don't like it. But that person is doing you a huge favor by showing you how you can improve. Yet the human response is to get very defensive, right? And they'll turn it around on the other person. Oh, I don't have faults, you have faults, right? Because we don't want to look at ourselves. Right? So we need to do the shadow work. We need to have bravery as an individual and as a society. We need to be brave enough to look inside of ourselves and see where our shadow lies, see where we have faults, see where we need to improve. And it's through doing that that we grow as human beings. We'll no longer need to hide behind drugs and alcohol, retail therapy, and all those things I mentioned. Right? We're hiding behind those things right now because we're afraid. And that fear creates violence, right? What is the cause of violence? It's fear. What is the cause of fear? It's not knowing ourselves. It's not going inward. It's not being certain of who we are, why we're here, what we're meant to be doing. So I think that's what society needs the most. And you're asking me, like, how do we do that? What is shadow work? Basically, a large part of it is we all have trauma from our childhood, all of us. No matter how good of a home that you grew up in, our parents, our teachers, our society has programmed us with negativity. It could have been a certain event that caused you to create beliefs about you and yourself. For instance, let's say you had a science project when you were in 3rd grade and you did your best job that you possibly could on it. But your mom or your teacher or someone said that this is not good enough. You know, this sucks. This is a horrible thing that you've created. Well, that might be like nothing to the person who said that. To you, it's huge. You're still growing. And now you've just been told that you're not good enough. You've been told that you suck. You've been told that you're not smart enough. And you carry that with you for your whole life. And that starts to create belief systems. You start to believe that I'm not good enough. Maybe only in this case, maybe only in the area of science, but it could be, this is just an example, but maybe whenever you come against science, you feel inadequate, right? Maybe for your whole life, you're not very good at science because you've told yourself that I'm not good enough for science. I'm not good enough to do science. Science is over my head. I suck at it. Because someone, when you were formulating your beliefs, told you something that was incorrect. And now you've carried that with you your whole life. We all have this baggage, my friends. Each and every one of us has baggage that we're carrying. It might not have to do with science projects, but that's the point of shadow work, is identifying those things that happened to you in your past and realizing how you've created belief systems, how your ego mind has created inaccurate belief systems. And so shadow work is done. There's many different ways to do it. I can't tell you one way or another, but the way I've done it is through meditation. Getting in touch with myself, my higher self, my inner self, getting in touch with that has led me through meditation to discovering all this baggage that I'm carrying around. And as you go into the self, sort of like a psychic surgery, you kind of go back into your past and you can heal those beliefs that you've created. And the more you heal those beliefs, the less that you'll find yourself dependent on drugs or alcohol or retail therapy or traveling or video games. You'll depend on those things less and less and less, because you're more in touch with who you truly are, and your path in this world will be more and more obvious, because you're minimizing your ego mind, and you're maximizing your intuition, your soul. And your soul and your intuition knows exactly what you need to be doing and how you need to be doing it. But you can't hear it if your ego mind is constantly chattering above it, right? It's like you're trying to watch a movie, but someone's talking next to you. You can't hear the movie, right? All you hear is that person chatting next to you. Well, that person chatting next to you is your ego mind, and it's covering up who you truly are. And I think as a race of humans, I think that's the biggest thing that we need to be focusing on. Each and every one of us has to individually go inward. And once we as individuals start healing from our past traumas, society as a whole will improve. We'll have less people doing drugs. We have less people eating till they're in a food coma. We'll have less people, blindly, getting violent over their stupid sports teams. We need to discover the self. And we need to stop looking at outside sources to save us. That's kind of programmed into us as well. Oh, politics will make my life better, right? We're so invested in who's going to become president because we think that's going to have some huge impact on your life. It doesn't. It has no impact on your life unless you allow it to. Unless you're going to watch CNN and get angry over what Trump did this week. Right? You're allowing yourself to get angry. He's not making you angry. You are choosing to be angry. So we're obsessed with looking outside of ourselves as a human species. We're obsessed with it because that's intentionally taught to us to do that. Because those in power, those in control, do not want you to get in contact with your higher self or your inner self. They want you to be just squandering your life away with all these addictions and all these things that mask who you truly are, because it keeps us under control. But if you decide that I'm going to take my power back, I'm going to do the healing, I'm going to become a better human being, more in alignment with who I truly am supposed to be on this planet, then nothing can stop you, right? And that's scary. That's scary for the controllers. They do not want that, because that means they've lost control of their society. We are easily manipulated when we're living in fear. They can manipulate us into anything. Look at 9/11. So many of us were in fear of these quote-unquote terrorists that we agreed to give up our rights through the Patriot Act. We agreed to invade sovereign nations and bomb innocent civilians. We were so in fear that thousands of U.S. troops, hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of Afghanis and Iraqis and Syrians have died because of the fear over 9/11. We were so afraid something like that would happen again, so we were like, kill them all. That's how powerful fear can be as a controlling mechanism. So we need to look past that. We need to go inwards. All right, does that make sense? I want to thank Jose for the question. I want to thank all of you for your questions. They were fantastic this week. I look forward to next week. Put a question in the comment section below. I love you guys. Happy MTGing, I guess. Peace.